Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, football fans. I'm Ryan Cato here with Hunter Thompson, Trevor McVeigh. What you just heard is our new intro theme from Dakota Griggs, a good friend of ours that we now have. We're an official podcast. How does everybody feel about that? We're feeling good about the new theme. A little guitar at the beginning.
Oh, I like it.
I mean, it makes it sound more official, and that's what I care about.
When that backups music hits.
When the backups music hits.
We're the backups of football podcast. And we've had a hell of a week. I'll tell you that. The NFL is in absolute shambles right now, and we're about to talk about it. Trevor, you have a list of injuries this week?
Oh, yeah, I'd have quite a list of injuries. That's pretty much been the storyline the first 2 weeks is injuries. So just to start, in no particular order, you have Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas, both on the 49ers D-line, both tore their ACL. Saquon Barkley tore his ACL. McCaffrey's a high ankle sprain that'll keep him out for multiple weeks. Drew Lock sprained his AC joint in his, I believe, in his throwing shoulder. So he's going to be out for multiple weeks, if not the entire year. Cortland Sutton tore his ACL. Michael Thomas has a high ankle sprain and is going to be out multiple weeks. Le'Veon Bell has a hamstring injury, and he's on IR, so he's missing at least 3 weeks. Jimmy G has a high ankle sprain, so I'm not sure what his status is for next week. Malik Hooker tore his Achilles. Byron Jones has a groin injury, and he did not come back in that game this week, so I'm not sure what his status is. Raheem Mostert sprained his MCL, so he'll probably be out at least 1 week, if not multiple, for that. Tyrod Taylor was the weird one of the weekend where he had some kind of chest pains literally right before kickoff. So we got to see Justin Herbert get his first start. Paris Campbell, the wide receiver 2 for Indy, has a PCL injury. I'm not sure if it's a tear or not, but he does have an injury. Devontae Adams has a hamstring injury, and he is questionable for this week. A.J. Brown has a knee problem, and then Blake Jarwin tore his ACL week 1. And that's just in 2 weeks, guys.
And that's hell of a
the
list.
Big names.
Yeah, that's a hell of a list, and I'm sure there was more when it comes to like smaller, not as notable players. I mean, I think we all know what the cause of this is, and that's shortened preseason.
It's been no preseason.
Yeah, I mean, like clearly, there's some issues here with conditioning and getting in shape before the season, because that's a lot of, and it's all like ACLs, knees, high ankle sprains, which are dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
those are career-altering injuries for some.
Yeah, lack of shortened training camp, and then no preseason, so just lack of just all-around contact and full goes has really, I guess, accelerated the injury process, I reckon.
And we heard some big names for sure. Nick Bosa, I mean, obviously a huge name in there, but also some big names for fantasy that you named just in the short list that you had there. 3 first-round picks, being McCaffrey, Saquon, and Michael Thomas.
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams, yeah.
Depending on the league, sure, but huge picks. Wide receiver 1s, RB 1s. So how do you guys think that that's going to affect the fantasy world going forward, and what are some RBs and wide receivers we could pick up to save some seasons?
Yeah, I know the big one for me was watching the Saquon Barkley injury that happened.
And big one for me too. You tell me.
Yeah, that was Cato's first pick.
Sure.
But I know like a lot of people will probably link at Wayne Gallman, Dion Lewis, and recently signed Devontae Freeman for the Giants backfield. But I would do what?
Was Devontae Freeman official today?
Or once he passes
I believe so, yeah.
Once he passes the COVID test.
Okay.
But I would avoid all 3 of them because Saquon Barkley was not putting up good numbers behind that horrid offensive line. What makes you think Devontae Freeman, Gallman, or Dion Lewis will either?
Yeah, they're not going to.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Although Dion Lewis, he was more of a change of pace back before anyway. And with receptions in PPR, he might be something. I mean, four receptions for 36 yards, but a touchdown last week too. 20 yards on 10 carries. That line is looking shoddy, though. I mean, like Andrew Thomas might be the best lineman on that line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Another guy to mention, I believe his name is Mike Davis for Carolina. He's McCaffrey's backup. So once he came in the game, he actually put up some pretty solid fantasy points in the receiving game. So I think he put up a little over 15 points. And the majority of it was receptions and reception yards. So he's pretty good for a PPR league. I'm not sure how well he'll do for a standard league.
Mike Davis is a good target. We saw last year him in Seattle a little bit. When Rashad Penny and Chris Carson went down, he was the stand-in guy, and he put up some solid numbers in terms of a backup there. So if you're looking for some running back depth, Mike Davis is definitely a good pickup.
Yeah, I'd be interested there because I did see most of his points. He had 8 receptions for 74 yards, which is, I mean, that's wide receiver numbers. But only one carry. I'd be interested to see if they rush him more up the gut when it comes to. I know that's not really McCaffrey's play, but if that's more of his play when it comes to him starting the game. Do you think that Carolina's receivers are going to be affected fantasy-wise with McCaffrey out? We mentioned before this recording, good Lord, that Robbie Anderson through 2 weeks is a top 5 wide receiver play.
That's wild.
You think that? I think it's wild too. I mean, that like from a guy that's coming from the Jets being like barely a flex play. Do you think Robbie Anderson is a must start this week with McCaffrey out?
I will say I think the majority of his points were off either like a 75 or 78 yard TD reception, and the rest of it wasn't that great. So it's still kind of risky in my opinion. But I mean, if it's a pretty deep league and you need a decent flex or you're hurting at wide receiver, he's not a bad play, that's for sure.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
week 1 that was true, but he had 9 receptions last week for 109 yards. So that was the only thing I was like,
maybe respectable.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with like the Robbie Anderson matchup is they're going against San Diego this week. Or sorry, LA Chargers, not San Diego.
Yeah.
But the Chargers have one of the better pass rushes in the league. Carolina does not have a good offensive line. So I'm really expecting there to still be a bunch of dink and dunk, quick play, misdirection, out of the backfield type stuff. I'm not saying I would not play him, but I would not play him more than a flex.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the pressure that the Chargers defense could put on in that Chiefs game, which I'm sure we'll talk about when we get to our personal games of the week. But excellent pass rush, and the coverage didn't look bad either on some of those speedsters on the Chiefs offense. So, also, who is the wide receiver 1 in Green Bay with if Devontae Adams misses this week?
So it's going to be Lazard or Valdez-Scantling, which I know majority of people probably have never heard of. But I mean, that's all he's got to work with. So that's another couple players that you should pick up if you need somebody in like a deep league.
Yeah, I'll be honest though, I don't think Devontae Adams is going to miss this week.
I think so.
I think he's probably going to be playing. He's too, even if he's just playing as a decoy, I think he's going to be seeing the field.
Yeah. I did see this week, to wrap up our injury section, I did see this week, a lot of people thought Emmanuel Sanders would take over some volume for only 1 reception for 18 yards this week. But I did see Traquan Smith. I heard his name quite a few times on the broadcast. We run a football podcast, and I didn't know who Traquan Smith was before this season. So I don't know what his volume was really looking like this last week, but he might be another person to look at when it comes to fantasy, or even just like if you're looking for who the Saints are targeting this week. But
yeah, if I'm an Emmanuel Sanders owner in fantasy, I'm going to be very nervous because Drew Brees' average depth of target was 4.6 yards. which is not Emmanuel Sanders. He's more of a deep down the field guy, in my opinion. And he got very limited targets in that game because of that. So I would be very nervous about Emmanuel Sanders this season.
Yeah. I mean, did pull up the numbers: 5 receptions, 86 yards for Traquan Smith last night. So
if you have Alvin Kamara and who's their tight end? I just forgot his name.
Jared Cook.
Yes, if you have one of those two, you're probably in business because that's all Drew Brees was throwing to you besides Cook.
Just the little flats and stuff like that.
Right.
That's pretty much all against the Raiders last night. Speaking of that game, I would love to talk about our games of the week. There was actually quite a few nail biters this last week, and I just want to highlight a couple of those that you guys saw. I do want to bring up first and foremost that Atlanta-Dallas game. We do live in Atlanta. We do.
Why? Why'd you have to? Why?
Why are we starting there, bro?
Why are we starting with that?
It was a hell
You
of a
didn't
game.
even give us a heads up. You just said no warning.
But
while we're at it, let's just talk about the Super Bowl.
Ended up with a massive failure on Atlanta's part.
Cover the fucking kick. Holy shit.
Well, I've got one better. How about the defense doesn't give up 40 fucking points? Gosh.
Cover the damn kick.
It was a massive failure on everybody's part except for the offense. The offense scored 39 points.
Yeah, how the fuck do we score 39 points and still lose?
Any other team in the league, they win that game. Literally, all 31 other teams, if they score 39 points, they win that game.
Right.
But the Atlanta Falcons scored 39 points, and we went for 2 in the first quarter, up I think 16-0, because Dan Quinn knew that our defense was going to give up a crap ton of points, and we did.
I mean, it was an absolute shit show. I'm gonna say that. But do you think Dan Quinn's job is in jeopardy when it comes to the coming weeks? Because it's looking like it with a defensive coach, you're gonna give up 40 points and lose that game.
Oh, I don't care if we make it to the Super Bowl. I want him gone, and I mean that wholeheartedly. Like I am done with Dan Quinn as of Sunday afternoon. I don't care what happens for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Dan Quinn is probably one of the 3 hottest coaches on the hot seat between him, Gase, and Matt Patricia. But I do think we're going to see Dan Quinn for most of the season, or at least up until the bye week. I don't think we will see any firing until the bye week, so that way we could have a longer transition for the Falcons.
I think he stays the whole season, no matter what our record is.
No, I think he stays the whole season and then gets fired Black Monday.
Because we were like 1-8 last year, and he stayed the whole season.
Yeah, but if the Falcons, are 0 whatever by the time we hit the bye week, I think we could see him gone by then. But I do realistically think he's going to stay all season and then get fired Black Monday.
I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if the Falcons are still 0 whatever when it comes to the bye week, because we were talking about on Twitter earlier. Quick plug, if you don't follow us on Twitter at the Backups Cast, post a lot of good news there, have a lot of good discussion. But I did see you talking about it on Twitter earlier. The Falcons schedule coming up isn't too tough. You got the Bears, who actually are 2-0, to be fair. I don't want to talk shit. The Panthers, the Lions, the Panthers again, and the Broncos are in there, along with the Vikings and the Packers. So I'd be surprised if they were 0 what is that?
Yeah.
By the time bye week came, but
yeah. I mean, I think realistically through that stretch of games you just named off, Falcons will probably be sitting at like 4-5 or 5-4. Just because our offense is too good to lose that many games.
I think it's the opposite. I think we're gonna have a losing record in that stretch. I'm that down on the Falcons right now. All right. Just to highlight a couple other guys, CeeDee Lamb, his rookie year has looked fantastic in both games he's played. He lit up the Falcons in the slot this week. Hayden Hurst, former first-round pick, goes to Atlanta. He had a really good game. Dak looked solid. Matt Ryan looked good.
Dak looks good. I know we had that QB tiering episode, but Dak looked pretty strong.
Dak was looking good. Dak was looking really good, actually.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Too good.
I mean, we don't have to talk about the Atlanta game any longer.
I would like to move on away from that game.
Let's move on to my game of the week. How's that sound?
Let's hear that.
I think easily for me, the game of the week was Sunday Night Football, Patriots and Seahawks.
Yeah.
That game was so much fun to watch. Cam Newton, I can honestly say I think he's back. The guy's just a playmaker. I mean, he was making the throws. I mean, he did have a couple like missed throws, but running when he needs to. The defense gave up 35 points, but it still looked pretty solid for the most part. The Patriots are still the Patriots. They lost this game, but I would still be very encouraged if I'm the Patriots and Patriots fans. Then the Seahawks, on the other hand, look like the real deal this year. Generally, the last couple seasons, they've been kind of slow starters, and this season, they're coming out hot. So this game was so much fun to watch. I hope everybody got to watch it.
Yeah, something that I did notice, the Seahawks being a traditionally run-heavy game, bust the gut, the Pete Carroll offense, they're finally letting Russ cook. Over these past two games, Russ has been absolutely cooking. Number one quarterback in fantasy right now. Could this be an MVP type season for Russell Wilson? Could he be the best quarterback in football this season?
Yes, 100%. I think if there's any year it's going to happen, it's going to be this year for Russ. And that's not a knock on any of the other MVP candidates, but seeing Russ take his game from an already elite level to this next tier level, that's pretty much just him and Patrick Mahomes at this point. You have to give it to him at that point. Like, yes, Mahomes, I think, is still the best quarterback in football, but what Russ has done this season so far, it's only 2 games, so it might change, but what he has done through these 2 games is so incredible and truly some of the best quarterbacking I've seen in years.
Yeah, 75% completion, almost 300 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception against the Patriots. Who are known to have a pretty strong defense. Also, 5 touchdowns.
I believe it was a pick 6.
5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers is the other thing I wanted to highlight. That's absolutely insane. I think that's crazy. The Seahawks are also looking like a really strong contender in the NFC. Do you think that they can make a deep playoff run?
If they let Russ keep.
The Seahawks? Yeah, 100%. I think they're easily the favorites to go to the NFC Championship, if not the Super Bowl out of the NFC right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're for sure going to make a deep run in the playoffs, but I think the way they're going to make the Super Bowl and potentially win a Super Bowl is if they keep letting Russ cook throughout the season.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Absolutely insane from Russ so far this year. Also, I know Trevor, rather, you did just say Cam Newton's back, and I actually tend to agree with you. Almost 400 yards in this last game.
That's crazy.
30 for 44, 397 yards and a touchdown. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns.
Right.
And we talked about last episode, like, I want to see MVP Cam again. I don't know if it's going to be exactly the same, but I think he's definitely back with a vengeance. I think we're seeing he's angry.
I cannot wait to see Cam Newton versus Josh Allen twice this year, because Josh Allen is like the younger Cam Newton, in my opinion. So this ought to be really fun.
Yeah, same build, same skills. I mean,
a little bit inaccurate, but they're playmakers on their feet.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna see MVP ever come back, but I know this season Cam is definitely the favorite, probably for comeback player of the year, or is at least going to be on the short list for it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Like you said, Patriots do have the Bills twice. I'm very excited for those games as well. Hunter, game of the week. Any games you were interested in watching that you loved seeing?
Yeah, the big one for me, honestly, was watching Justin Herbert's debut
Yep.
against the Kansas
Yes,
City
sir.
Chiefs. I mean, there's a couple other games we could highlight, but for me, that one was great. I'll be honest, I was wrong about what Herbert would bring to the team right off the bat. Granted, it has only been one game, but what he was able to do, he threw for 311 yards, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I
More
believe
yards
was
than
what the
Patrick
total
Mahomes.
was. Yeah,
More yards than Patrick Mahomes
exactly.
on less completions.
Yeah, 66.7% completion percentage, 311 yards, a touchdown, and an INT. Is that elite? Probably not, but that's damn good for a debut when you're going head to head with a NFL MVP.
And he wasn't even prepared to start. He got the start minutes before kickoff.
Yeah,
So I think that's awesome.
I tend to agree. I was scared for him behind the Chargers line, and also just with his inexperience. Tyrod obviously starting last week, but he did. Patrick Mahomes had 47 attempts and completed 27 of them. Justin Herbert had 33 attempts and completed 22. Higher completion percentage, more yards thrown. Obviously, he's not playing at the same elite level that Patrick Mahomes is, like you said, but I mean, it was something really special.
He took him to overtime.
Yeah,
He took Patrick Mahomes to overtime.
Took the reigning Super Bowl champs to overtime. I mean, that's something to hang your hat on for your first start.
Well, that defense too.
Running game definitely had his back too. Eckler with 93 yards and Joshua Kelly with 64, as well as the Chargers defense looked excellent. I thought the Chargers pass rush against the Chiefs line, which is still a very good line. Obviously, it's a Super Bowl winning line. Looked very good.
I'll be honest. I thought their offensive line was one of their weakest parts of their Super Bowl run.
Sure,
Yeah.
and I tend to agree, but it did still win a Super Bowl. You know,
True.
I mean, Joey Bosa was giving Schwartz the work around the edge.
That's true. Schwartz is a monster.
He is.
And Murray had a good game as well.
Joey Bosa was backfield more times than I could count. Even just like in the first half, I saw him in the backfield over and over and over. So, looking pretty strong actually.
You mean West?
Or
Yeah,
AFC
West.
I meant Chargers keeping it close with the Chiefs, the Raiders 2-0.
If only Drew Lock had stayed healthy.
If only Drew Lock and Cortland Sutton. I mean, Cortland Sutton's the same way. Cortland Sutton's out too.
Right.
But Chargers. I thought I wasn't expecting much more than like probably 6-10 from them. But the defense is looking really good. So I'd be interested to see what we see the rest of the season from them.
They've already announced that Tyrod Taylor is going to get the start next week too, which I do not agree with. I don't think any of us agree with that.
I just don't understand really. After Herbert's performance, I don't really.
Yeah, I mean, I understand not wanting to rush your quarterback in, but after that performance week one, or I mean, not week one, this in his first start, there's no reason to not be playing him unless you're so unconvinced that your offensive line can keep him upright. But even then, like, there's still no reason Tyrod should be starting.
That run game's no joke either with Eckler and rookie Joshua Kelly.
I agree, and
I love me some Joshua Kelly.
Yes, you do. I'm confused too because Tyrod Taylor put up 16 points on the Bengals. That's one touchdown. So I'm kind of confused on where Anthony Lynn's head is there when Justin Herbert just played the reigning Super Bowl champs close, and Tyrod Taylor almost lost to the reigning first picks. I'm really baffled by that. Tyrod Taylor, the first week was 16 for 30 for 208 and no touchdowns.
That's so bad.
Against the Bengals.
Against the Bengals.
Bad.
At home, I think.
Yeah.
It might have been in Cincinnati.
I think it was in Cincinnati, but yeah. Either way. Absolutely awful. Joshua Kelly, the only touchdown of the day. So I don't know about that, but I'll be interested to see what that quarterback room looks like going forward. I did want to talk about one more game before we move on and have a quick ad break, actually. But the Thursday night game this week, Bengals-Browns.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Burrow. Just wanted to highlight him real quick. Joe Burrow looked very nice against the Browns. Still got the loss, but 30 points in Cleveland.
Short
What are we
week.
seeing with Joe Burrow going forward, do you think? Do you think he's going to continue to improve?
Yeah, I was very encouraged by that game. I mean, he did have some missed throws, and that right guard and right tackle for Cincy, they need to step up their game because they looked atrocious. Like they
Bobby
were
Bobby Hart's bad.
Yeah, left side of the line did okay, but the right side was bad.
Yeah, they were getting slapped up by Myles Garrett, to be fair, but it's that there's still no excuse. I mean, it was every play. It was
him and Tyler Boyd had a good connection this week. Joe Mixon was kind of quiet. Defense was not good, which didn't really expect it to be. Then on the other side of the ball, Baker Mayfield had his best game in a while, in my opinion. Had a good solid TD to Odell Beckham. Looked poised in the pocket, so good game for him. But he plays well when his running game's good, and Nick Chubb
they
popped
sure
off.
Yeah, both of them. Nick Chubb, both of them looked excellent.
Yeah, so whenever he has a running game, Baker Mayfield looks good. When he doesn't and he has to carry the team, it does not go well. So overall, a pretty solid game for Cleveland. I would be nervous giving up 30 points to Cincy, just because Cincy's still not that great. I mean, they've got weapons and stuff, but still would be nervous playing Pittsburgh and Baltimore twice, and you have to play Cincy again. But as far as the game, it was fun as crap to watch, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I loved watching that one. It was good. It was good to watch two young quarterbacks slinging it around and just having a game. Like you were saying though, they need to improve that O-line over in Cincy. Penny Sewell is definitely at this point. He has to be the move if they're picking in that range. Like he has to be the pick.
Yeah, I mean, and you can plug him in at right tackle and then either find a veteran in free agency, or even pick a guard in the third or fourth round.
I mean, like the thing is, like you can kick Jonah Williams over to right, play Penny Sewell at left, or however you want to do it. Sure, yeah, but you have to do something to improve that offensive line.
Yeah, because if you don't let Penny Sewell, I would go Micah Parsons for them too.
Ooh, Parsons.
Micah. I don't know if I would go Micah Parsons though. They just drafted a couple good backers last draft.
Yeah, Logan Wilson out of Wyoming did some scouting on him, as well as Akeem Davis-Gaither, who actually got in the game.
He had a hell of a game.
Yeah, from App State. So two smaller program guys that I loved to highlight in some other episodes. You can check those episodes. It might be episode 3 or 4. But we are going to take a quick break, have a quick little ad read for something. I don't know what it's going to be, but we're about to find out, and we'll be right back. Hey everybody, Ryan Cato here with the Backups Cast. Just putting in a quick reminder that you can follow us on Twitter at the Backups Cast. Subscribe to our YouTube, the Backups Cast. You can find us on pretty much any podcast hosting at the same, the Backups Cast, all one word. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to Brian Lamb and the ISN Podcast Network, where we'll be hosted for the season. Shout outs to Brian, and thank you for the support. So now that we got that out of the way, back into the action. All right, welcome back to the Backups of Football podcast. We are back and ready to talk about some surprises from the week. Hunter, do you want to start us off with a player that kind of surprised you this week?
Yeah. It's the second week in a row I'm going to be talking about Gardner Minshew. I know I've had some Jags fans angered by my statement about Minshew not being a franchise quarterback. However, he is starting to prove me wrong. He had another elite performance this week against Tennessee, Granted, they still lost, but he was able to keep them close, and he just looked good. His throws were crisp. Everything was just on point. It was just an incredible performance for a guy who was drafted in the 6th round. He put up 339 yards and 3 touchdowns against a fairly formidable Titans defense that kind of carried them to the championship game last year.
Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry did absolutely nothing this week, though. Only 84 yards, no touchdowns. Actually was outrushed by James Robinson of the Jaguars.
Rookie.
102 yards, touchdown, undrafted free agent. But like you said, Gardner Minshew, former 6th-round pick, Washington State. It's his 2nd week in a row with 3 touchdowns. He had 339 yards this week. Did throw 2 picks, but like you said, it's a good defense. And they, with the recent add of Jadeveon Clowney, getting even better. So, I mean, the Jags are 1-1. It's very early. But do you think the Jags might hold on to Gardner Minshew and may not tank for Trevor?
I 100% do at this point in time. They're playing so much better than I thought they were going to at the start of the season. And even if they're picking in the 6 to 10 range, there's still no reason to draft a Trey Lance or a Justin Fields there if I'm Jacksonville. Minshew's looking like he could be the guy.
Yeah, I'm still a little hesitant to call Minshew the guy. Like I said last week, I still think he might play them out of a top QB. I don't think this is sustainable. I could be wrong. Please prove me wrong, but I'm still not on the Minshew train right now. He's fun. He's really quirky, really cool social media to follow, but I'm just not a believer yet. Corey Davis is actually getting a few catches for Tennessee since A.J. Brown was out, which was surprising. Overall, I was kind of disappointed with Tennessee this week, giving up so many points to Jacksonville, because I thought they were the clear favorites in that division. But Jacksonville's given that division a hell of a freaking run. I mean, they beat the crap out of the Colts last week and almost beat Tennessee in Tennessee this week. So Jacksonville's a scary play week to week right now.
Yeah, I think that division is just a shit show, to be honest. Jacksonville beat the crap out of the Colts last week, and the Colts were putting the hammer down on the Vikings this week. I mean, Houston never looks good. Houston. I don't even want to talk about Houston. And I honestly thought coming into the season, seeing like the Jags trade away or release pretty much anybody on their team that
is worth a damn
had anything, that we were going to see, maybe 0-16, maybe 1-15, maybe 2-14, but 2 games into the season they're 1-1 and have looked good in both games. So they might play themselves out of a top QB, like you said, or even a top draft pick spot. But I guess like every team has to play for the playoffs when you start the season. You can't.
Right.
If you go out there playing to win, maybe something will happen. So maybe Gardner Minshew's the real deal. I don't know. It's hard to say, but that is quite the team. Trevor, I'd love to hear a surprise of the week from you.
Yeah, my surprise of the week is going to be the Los Angeles Rams. A lot of media analysts, and myself including, thought they were going to be the weakest link of that NFC West, which has turned out to be the division in football, I believe. Arizona looks fantastic. San Francisco's defending NFC champs, and then you got the Seahawks looking like Super Bowl contenders, if not favorites, right now. And the Rams, back-to-back weeks, they beat Dallas in Dallas, I believe.
Yeah,
I think so. And then they played at Philly this week, so it was a battle of the 2016 QB draft between Carson and Carson and Goff, and I mean, that team's a real deal. They put up 37, ended up winning 37-19 on the road. I mean, granted, the Philly team's really beat up as far as their line and lack of weapons for Carson to throw to. But Miles Sanders still had a good game. But I think the Rams might be the real deal. They might be back to their 2017 self. So that NFC West is wide open, and I'm really excited to see how well they do.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I watched really closely the Rams-Cowboys game that first week, and that offense looked great. Sean McVay calling great plays, looking like Kyle Shanahan out there. But two great offensive minds, but they were throwing the same type of like West Coast type deal. And it's scary, especially with the run game that they have to back it up.
Right.
But Hunter, you did mention a minute ago Carson Wentz looking very weak on the field, and I was wondering if you would hit on that.
Yeah. Carson Wentz is not looking like a franchise quarterback, right? Well, I mean, I'm not going to say not looking like a franchise quarterback, but he's not looking good. In this game against the Rams, he did 60.5% completion percentage, 242 yards, and 2 INTs. No touchdowns. And then
he had a rushing touchdown.
He had a rushing. Yeah, but no passing wise. But he had almost as weak of a performance week 1 against Washington, where he threw 57% completion. Listen.
That O-line against Washington D-line, though, he got sacked 8 times.
Throw it away. Do something. You can't be taking 8 sacks, and you can't be losing to Washington like that. And you can't be getting blown up by the Rams like this either. Your team is predicted to win or is supposed to be competitive. Everything they do every offseason from Howie Roseman is to be a Super Bowl contender.
Sorry.
I don't think Carson Wentz I think he's afraid. I don't think he has it between the ears. Because
honestly,
sorry. Go ahead.
Like Trevor was saying, I think he should be afraid. I mean, the O-line is not there. The receiving core, I mean, you have Deshaun Jackson.
Oh, I don't mean of him getting hit. I mean, he's afraid of playing poorly. Same thing happened when they had Nick Foles. Like after the Super Bowl run when Nick Foles won the Super Bowl for them. If you look the next season, Carson Wentz was also playing in a similar way because he was afraid of Nick Foles taking his job. Same thing is happening right now with Jalen Hurts, who they drafted in the 2nd round.
I completely disagree.
Okay.
I mean, if I were to look at it from, say if it was my team. So Matt Ryan is missing both of his starting tackles and missing another starter on the line. Then Julio's out, Calvin Ridley's out, and Russell Gage is out. That's pretty much what he's rolling out with. And then with 2 really good tight ends between Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz. That's what he's rolling out with on offense. And
I mean, to be fair, Miles Sanders looked great this last week, and maybe that's a play calling issue. I mean, Miles Sanders, 20 carries, 95 yards, and a touchdown.
Trevor, you're gonna draft the Matt Ryan thing? Look back to 2014 when Matt Ryan's number 1 receiver was Harry Douglas. He had 28 touchdowns still. But
over a season, we've seen 2 weeks. Like it's.
But I don't know. It wasn't just Matt Ryan that year, though. It was more. It was the defense that year. It was not Matt Ryan. This year, it has been pretty much solely on Wentz playing poorly.
Yeah, I mean,
the defense still gave up 37 points, though. I mean,
yeah, but if you only put up 19, don't throw a single passing touchdown. I mean, Carson Wentz didn't look awful week 1, but still only had 2 touchdowns against the Washington defense, and Washington put up 27 on them. I don't know. I'm not loving Carson Wentz's play. I think it's definitely a possibility that he's afraid of Jalen Hurts. Although we did talk about preseason that Jalen Hurts might be in a more gadget role, like a Taysom Hill. But if they're seeing that he can make throws in practice, they're seeing that maybe he's more than that. That could be a possibility, but I do think that Eagles team is really beat up. So they're not doing him any favors, that's for sure.
Right.
Finally, I did want to hit on one more surprise this week. That was Raiders Saints Monday Night Football this week. Drew Brees looked poor, and the Raiders looked very nice. Raiders who are now 2-0. I just wanted to hear y'all's thoughts on that. Raiders putting up 34 on the Saints.
Yeah, I think I don't know how much of it is John Gruden? How much is Derek Carr? Or just I don't know where to give the credit where it's due. But this entire Raiders team is looking really well put together. They're looking very complete all the way around, and I was not expecting them to be this good.
Me neither. I mean, you're telling.
Yeah, I mean, I think they still have some holes, but as a whole, like they look good.
Yeah, I think my storyline with that game would be the other side of the ball with Drew Brees, and like I've mentioned before, his average depth of target is 4.6 yards. That is not how you win football games in the NFL in today's game. That is looking like the good old Father Time finally catching up to Drew Brees on that one. I mean, maybe that's just the way they schemed it up this week, but as far as throwing it down the field, he was not that proficient in doing so. Alvin Kamara looked fantastic. He looks like he looks like he deserves more than what he got paid.
Yep.
If he plays like that every week.
Yep.
And then as far as the Raiders, they won this game, and it was pretty convincingly after they got out of that hole because they went down, I believe, 10-0, and then they came back and won 34-24. But honestly, like nothing was that convincing to me. Like Derek Carr looked okay. I mean, his stats look really good, but none of it really just wowed me as far as his play. But maybe that's just a sign of a solid team that doesn't need to wow you. So still a little skeptical of the Raiders, but they're in a tough division in the AFC West. So hopefully they can have a solid season. Josh Jacobs still looks good. He didn't have quite as good of a game as he had first week, but all in all, I'm still skeptical on the Raiders, and I would be really nervous as a Saints fan.
Yeah, I don't want to hop on the hype train too quick. Obviously, I mean that sports journalism is overblowing every single game just for headlines. But if the Raiders don't look good, I mean, damn, like it feels like it's all coming together. Derek Carr didn't look amazing, but he looked like a quarterback who was captain this team. Like you said, stats look good: 282 yards, 3 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs looking excellent the first 2 games of the season. Had 27 carries. I mean, he's a bell cow. He's holding the ball 30 times a game. Mm-hmm. And then Darren Waller with 12 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. The rest of the receiving core doing their job. Brian Edwards, Hunter Renfrow. We even saw Nelson Aguilar get in there and didn't drop the ball, so that was new.
Henry Rhodes.
It was. I mean, it's a good looking Raiders team. The line isn't bad. So like you said, they do compete in a pretty tough division over there with the Chiefs, Chargers, the banged up Broncos currently. But I thought the Raiders looked pretty good for a team that I thought might have a top 10 pick this draft. Honestly,
agreed.
So and with the Saints, there is some Michael Thomas being out, that might be part of it. But Drew Brees didn't look good. And I think Kamara might be, one of the better running backs in the NFL right now.
Yeah, a healthy Alvin Kamara is looking dangerous.
Yeah,
he looks good.
Absolutely. And I said it after week 1. He looked absolutely electric. I thought he did, the same this week, even in a loss. So 2 touchdowns for him this week. Also 9 receptions for 95 yards. I mean, that's like real wide receiver numbers. That's McCaffrey numbers, So I'd be really interested to see what the Saints look like going forward. Saints coming up. Next. Oh, what were you about to say? Go for it.
So Eric Hindenburg on Twitter tweeted this out the other day, talking about how Drew Brees is entering Peyton Manning at the end of his career type play. Kind of how it was Peyton's last season, right?
Yeah.
Do you think there is a chance the Saints pull the same type move the Broncos did and bench Drew Brees for a little bit of the season and
for Taysom Hill
for Jameis Winston?
No, the way they paid Taysom, it'll probably be Taysom, for being honest.
I don't know. I've seen very few passes from Taysom Hill. Obviously, he is a big part of their team, but I'm not sure if he'll start. I don't know. Jameis Winston could start. That Jameis Winston has the arm.
He has the arm to push it downfield, which is what they're lacking.
I tend to agree. That hasn't been the Saints game in the past couple of years with Mike Thomas and Kamara. Been more of like little 10-yarders, cut-ins, outs, slants, etc. But I mean, like we've said, or like you said earlier, Trevor, like throw in 4 yards every single play is not how you win in the NFL. I mean, we see the Chiefs throwing 30 yards a play. Maybe Jameis could do that for them. See Emmanuel Sanders with some more action, maybe some Jared Cook. I don't know. That's interesting though. I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to see Jameis at some point this season. That'd be interesting. I do want to highlight before we go some backups this week from this last week or for the coming week that we could see. We talked about Mike Davis earlier, but I didn't know if there were any more backups or possible waiver sleepers like we had talked about before that we might want to highlight this week when it comes to fantasy football or just volume in general.
Yeah. One guy I'm going to highlight for your fantasy football needs is Russell Gage, Atlanta Falcons receiver. He is available in roughly 75% of leagues.
On ESPN.
On ESPN. And he's put up good numbers in both first 2 weeks. Last week he had 16 fantasy points, and the week before that he had 20 fantasy points. So if you're in a deeper league looking for some receiver depth, Russell Gage is probably a pretty good target to go for.
Yeah. I think my guy to watch this week with Tevin Coleman and Mostert being questionable for this coming Sunday, and I don't think they're very likely to play, in my opinion. Try and pick up Jared McKinnon, I believe his name. He was a pretty big part of their offense a couple seasons ago, but I know injuries have kind of really hurt his career. But he should be a RB1 coming into this Sunday, I think. So he should be a really good pickup.
Yeah, I think it's going to be him and Jeff Wilson Jr. in that backfield.
I think I heard of him.
Well, yeah, he's the last backup, which is why it's so important to highlight him. We love the backups here on the Backups Cast, but Jeff Wilson Jr. he played a little bit last season when that backfield was banged up. But I think it's going to be the two of them because Tevin Coleman's hurt. Kyle Shanahan does love Tevin Coleman, but I think he's like doubtful for the week. And Mostert probably won't play this week. So that's two 49ers backs for sure.
Just to highlight another one, Devontae Freeman. I don't expect that much from him if he even starts this week, considering he doesn't really know the playbook. But he's a pretty decent receiving back, so he could be somebody to look for in a really deep league. I think I saw he's getting a 1-year, $3 million deal, depending on the corona test.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be worse. I did want to highlight this isn't a backup, but a good waiver claim. Mike Gesicki from the Miami Dolphins. If he hasn't already picked up in your league, he's rostered in 50% roughly. But had a hell of a week last week. 8 receptions, 130 yards, 1 touchdown against the Bills defense, which we did talk about is missing Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano, both linebacker. That linebacking core is weak, but could be a good pickup along with Jonnu Smith for the tight end waiver wire this week.
Yeah, Jonnu Smith is the 4th best scoring tight end in PPR right now.
Yeah. One other guy to highlight is Nick Mullins, the San Francisco backup quarterback. If Garoppolo does not play, Mullins showed out his last time that he had a chance to start for the Niners. So that's just a name I would keep an eye on. If you are in desperate need of a quarterback, like some people are, but I think he could be a nice addition.
Yes, for sure. I did want to highlight too, and this I wouldn't recommend picking this man up, but not a terrible showing after Drew Lock left last week. Jeff Driscoll is the Denver's quarterback right now.
They're also rumored to sign Blake Bortles as well.
They did sign Blake Bortles.
Oh, wow.
Jeff Driscoll had 256 yards and 2 touchdowns, almost 19
against the Steelers. Not bad.
almost 19 fantasy points at Pittsburgh after Drew Lock.
Wow.
So something to keep an eye on. Maybe put him on your watch list. Literally rostered in no leagues, 0.1%. Wouldn't recommend it. I don't want to overblow the hype, but just something to look at. I think that's a good backup. Number 9 on the Broncos, Jeff Driscoll, to highlight. Gives me some maybe some Trent Dilfer energy. Who knows?
I'll give another one real quick. Paris Campbell going out for the rest of the season. Look for a wide receiver 2 in Indy. So maybe look at a Michael Pittman Jr. He's a rookie out of USC. He should get more playing time. And then who is Denver's wide receiver? Because I assume Jerry Jeudy would go to 1. So that means Deshaun Hamilton's their 2 now?
Maybe. I think Noah Fant might get some more volume.
Could be KJ Hamler.
Could be KJ, right? So those are a couple names you can look at as well.
Yes, for sure. I think there'll definitely be some more volume for both Melvin Gordon and Noah Fant in Denver. But yeah, KJ Hamler, another rookie out of Penn State that hopefully will get some volume for his sake, at least this week with Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton's out for the rest of the season. Is that correct?
Right. He tore his ACL.
So maybe we'll see some breakout receivers in Denver.
Oh, one last thing. If you've got Gronk on your team, drop his ass. All right, he's useless.
That was one thing I was like staying away from when it because Gronk was like it was, Kittle, Kelsey, and then it was Andrews, Ertz, and like Darren Waller, and Gronk was in that next tier. He was like right there, and I was never interested in that.
No.
No, Gronk was getting picked way too high in fantasy leagues. And like,
they already have 2 good
league,
tight ends,
yeah,
too.
Probably, but
he was getting picked around the same time as Austin Hooper, who has also been not.
Yeah.
Yeah. They paid all that money to Austin Hooper. He's been bad.
Holden in our league has them both. So.
Yeah, our friend Holden is kind of getting screwed on fantasy.
Yeah, it's not going.
It's his first year. He's learning.
He is. I'm trying to trade him Dallas Goedert for some stuff, but we'll see. Well, it's been a fantastic week. I'm excited for more NFL football. Not excited for more injuries, so hopefully we don't see too many more. I don't think my fantasy team can take any more. If you boys have anything to say, I'd love to close us out right after you're done. But
like always, thanks for listening. If we didn't highlight your team, sorry about that, but I mean, we didn't find their games that crazy interesting. Hope to talk to you next week.
Shout out to Cato's boy Tariq Cohen for his contract extension.
Yes.
Yep.
Shout out to everybody that listens to us.
Yes, absolutely. You can follow us on Twitter, the Backups Cast. You can find us on Podbean. I don't think I ever say that, but that's where we host our podcast. If you wanna go to download the Podbean app, it's pretty much useless. Podbean. And if you want to find us, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, as well as on YouTube, the Backups Cast. You can search that on pretty much any podcast hosting, and it'll come up just the Backups Cast, all one word. So thank you for joining us this week, and we will see you soon.